So the paper I'm going to present you today is entitled Entrepreneurial Intentions of the Romanian Students in the Context of COVID-19 Pandemic, and is written with my colleague, Professor Cristian Popescu. The major aspects of this paper are related to a brief introduction, then a literature review on the topic, then we have discussed some research hypotheses. We have then presented the methodology and the results, and of course in the end the conclusion. During time it was noticed that fostering entrepreneurship represents an important strategy to enhance a country's economic development. That's why entrepreneurship became the main topic in the curricula of the business course. Actually, it was noticed that successful entrepreneurship was positively influenced by the dispositions, skills and competences of the entrepreneurs. And skills and competences are shaped by education. The COVID-19 crisis raised many challenges to the world's economies. Actually, the impact of the current pandemic might have an impact on the potential entrepreneurial intentions. That's why fostering entrepreneurship might represent the key strategy to enhance a country's economic development. Considering all these aspects, the objective of this study is to investigate if the entrepreneurial intentions of the Romanian students changed during the COVID pandemic compared to the situation before the pandemic. According to the literature, entrepreneurship expands job opportunities and creates wealth and innovation. Actually, the driving force in the entrepreneurship centers, which in turn contributes to the economic growth. It was found that entrepreneurial intentions precede the entrepreneurial behavior. A study conducted by some authors in 2015 noticed that entrepreneurial intentions actually predict the entrepreneurial action. This is the reason why it was searched by several researchers what are the drivers of the entrepreneurial intentions, and it was found that these are attitudes, subjective norms and perceived behavioral control. All these could influence the effectiveness of entrepreneurial education. Actually, the role of the entrepreneurial education in the formation of entrepreneurial intentions could be based on the theory of the planned behavior of Ohrid. According to this theory, a person's future behavior is predicted by intention. The stronger the intention to engage in a specific behavior, the more likely it is that the actual behavior will be performed. The intention to perform a given behavior is the result of three cognitive antecedents, and these are attitude towards behavior, subjective norms, perceived behavioral control. According to some analysts, social identity is actually a person's self-image derived from membership of social groups, and this influences the formation of the entrepreneurial intentions. The pandemic created a new social and economic context all over the world, and in this context was considered that entrepreneurial intentions may be of a different order. There were a few investigations that address the entrepreneurial intentions in the context of dangerous situations. There were some studies related to war scenarios, to the terrorism context, or to the natural disasters. However, there is little empirical evidence for entrepreneurial intention within a pandemic situation. Based on the literature, we have developed two research hypotheses. The first one is that before the pandemic, students had a preference for being entrepreneurs, and the second one is that during the pandemic, students preferred to be employed rather than entrepreneurs. In order to achieve our purpose, we have conducted a survey based on a questionnaire. The final sample, was composed of 826 students enrolled in the second semester of their final year of undergraduate studies at the Faculty of Economics and Business Administration from Alexandru Ioan University of Iași, Romania. And of course, in order to see the differences between the before pandemic and after pandemic, we have conducted this survey in two time periods. namely April-May 2018 and February-March 2022. In this table, it can be seen the socio-demographic characteristics of the sample, of the two samples actually. And the first one, we can see that included 419 students, and the second one 406. The age was almost the same in the two samples. Regarding the employment experience, we can see that in the first sample, more students had employment experience, and also more students were self-employed compared to the second sample. The results were focused on the two samples. Regarding the first one, that was analyzed before the COVID-19 pandemic, we can notice a positive relationship between the pro-entrepreneurial attitudes, subjective norms, and perceived behavioral control on one hand, and the person's entrepreneurial intentions on the other hand. We can see that 74.4% of the students were interested in being employees, 14.5% were interested in being self-employed, while only 11.1% were not decided. The second sample was analyzed during the COVID-19 pandemic, and we can see that the respondents were less interested in being employed by others and more attracted to being entrepreneurs. And we can see the results. 43.2% were interested in being self-employed, only 38.7% were interested in being employees, and more students, meaning 18.1%, were not decided. And in the case of this sample, we notice also that risk-taking and creativity have a significant and positively impact in predicting entrepreneurial intentions, but locus of control did not have a significant impact. According to our results, we can say that the average propensity for entrepreneurial activity among higher education students is greater during the COVID pandemic period than before. And the questions whose average response increased in the second sample compared to the first one were, first of all, I will make every effort to start and manage my own business, an increase with 0.65 percentage points. Being an entrepreneur would give me a great satisfaction, an increase of 0.68 percentage points, and my professional goal is to be an entrepreneur, an increase of 0.71 percentage points. Actually, we notice that our results are not quite in line with other researches. For example, we notice that some studies mention that entrepreneurial activity of the population decreases in situations of macroeconomic changes, which it was not the case of our results. And based on the findings we have obtained, we have to reject both research hypotheses. So, taking into account the objective of this study, which was to investigate if the entrepreneurial intentions of Romanian students changed in the context of COVID pandemic, we noticed that respondents were less interested in being employed by others and more attracted to be self-employed during the COVID-19. Actually, the entrepreneurship is expected to increase exponentially after the pandemic. The entrepreneurial activity with high growth potential can be encouraged as long as the recovery is fast and there is sufficient support. Our findings could offer relevant information for the university managers and for the policymakers because they could help them understand the importance of encouraging students' entrepreneurship by nurturing creativity and offering educational resources that assist the young adults in reducing the perceived risk of entrepreneurship. In times of crisis, individual characteristics are the most relevant predictor of entrepreneurial activity. Thank you for your attention.